In this video, we're going to go over how to load data into our datasets section of the machine learning platform. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click on the datasets tab. In this tab, you can already see we have already loaded some datasets. And then what we're going to do is click on the Create Datasets button.
You can give it a name, and I'll do test 1. Version number, so in the event that there is more than one data set or you're adding on data to a previous data set, you can actually put in a new version number to keep track as to what time frame or where that data came from. Description, so I'll put test data. The application type is suggesting what kind of information is being retrieved into the machine learning platform. Currently, this one is just for numerical analysis. Next, we have source type. This is where we are going to grab the information from. We can grab the information from a CSV file. We can also go into the SORBA historian or new historian to grab more information. So I'll go ahead and show you the steps for the SORBA historian, and then we're going to go ahead and then bring in a CSV file too. So for the SORBA historian, you can go ahead, click the SORBA historian. We will do probably a compressor or a test. I can see that we have a G120 driver. Go ahead and click on that as the asset. And you also notice that there is a time range as to when you want to grab this data. So start, we can do, let's do the beginning of the year at 12 a.m. all the way till now. The retrieval mode, we can do the raw data or the cyclic data. And here we get to see all of the data tags that are associated to that data set. So we can include all of the data or just pick which tags we want. Here we're going to be able to either discard nulls, replace the nulls with a mean value, or replace the nulls with a specific value. So I'll go ahead and select that last option, and they're going to replace all the nulls with 0. As we discussed in the other video, you can also take an advanced rule setting where we can actually filter out any data that we want previously to importing it into the machine learning platform. I highly recommend to do this afterwards because there is another step where we can filter out the data going into a machine learning model. Here, you can bring in just the raw data and worry about filtering later, but in the event that you have a lot of data points and only specifically want when the machine is on and up and running, you can go here, go to advanced rules, and in this case, if there is a frequency on this driver or a current on this driver, we can say we want it to be equal to or greater than, let's say, 10 amps, knowing that there is some type of current flow within the motor suggesting that it is on. We can go ahead and add that, save the filter. That way this rule has been added to this data set. And as you can see here, the rule has also popped up. We can delete it or we can proceed and then create data set. When you hit create data set, you can see that it will start processing that data, and then it would show you in the dataset homepage. Now I'm gonna go back and create another data set with just CSV data. So I'll go ahead and do this again, where we create the data set. This will be test 2, CSV. And so with the CSV source type, I can choose a file from my local directory or from a hard drive. We're going to go over here and select some compressor data. So when you're importing from a CSV format, take for granted that from the historian standpoint, we know what the timestamps are. Now for the CSV file, we have to allow the system or let the system know what are the timestamps being imported. Here, conveniently, we have a tag that says timestamp, and then we have all the other tags that are associated to this data set. So for the date field, I will go ahead and select timestamp. You see that it imports the data format and the time zone. Again, we can put an advanced rule if we need to. I'm gonna go ahead and just replace all nulls with 0 again, or discard all nulls. and create dataset. Now back at the data settings screen, we can go ahead and search for that test 2. And you notice that test 1 isn't available yet because it is still importing that data from the historian. Luckily, this data set's a little bit smaller, so it's able to process that a little bit faster. And now, as you can see, this data set is now ready for viewing. Now we have a few options. We can either create a project, which is going to be that folder that contains all of the models that we're going to create using this data set, or we can explore this data set. Exploring this data set gives us some of the statistical analysis of what those tags are really representing. So from what we see here, we can see all the tags, given a count, mean, standard deviation, min and max values. We can also look at it from a grid perspective and filter if needed. A line chart to verify that all the data looks to be or has been imported correctly. Histogram to understand how this is being correlated. Scatter plot allows us to do some of the correlation factors here. So understanding how one value correlates to another, or how strong that correlation is. Luckily, in this next tab, we also have the numerical correlation between tag to tag. And using a scatter plot, we can verify this. So here in this correlation plot, we want to make sure that for something that has an enormous amount of tags, let's say above 100 tags up to 4,000, 5,000 tags in a data set, we want to be able to cleanse that data. If we need to manually go in and start taking out one by one tags, yes, this can be troublesome, but we also want to understand what the algorithm is going to be doing. So when we move on to the next step when creating a project, this is automatically done within the model. It'll look for the high correlations and take a higher priority on the ones that don't have as much as a correlation. But it still includes that data set and runs through multiple variations of that. So what we have here, we can determine from -1 to 1 how high that correlation is and judge for ourselves as to if we want to include these tags or allow the model itself to set that priority. So back here at the dataset screen, we can go down, look at that data set again, click on it, and now you can say we can create a new version. So like I said, we can append more data to this data set. For example, let's say that this data set was from January all the way to August this year, and that's all of the data that we had previously. Now at the end of the year, we want to bring in another 6 months worth of data. We can go into this data set page, click on create a new version, and just add or append that data to this data set. That way we can use this data to retrain models or create completely new algorithms. So here I'm going to go ahead and just add on some of the data using the same exact data set. So again, the name will remain the same. We now have a version number, and we can either grab this data from a CSV or from a historian. And the steps follow the same procedures: grabbing that data set, adding any rules if needed, and then clicking create data set. In essence, these are all the steps that you can take within creating a data set. Also, I want to show you that from the home screen, you're going to be able to add a data set directly, not having to go in and clicking into the dataset section. Just click add dataset and you're brought back to that screen that we first were on.